Welcome back to the channel. My name is Dylan McKay, and today we're going to be talking about movies in the Criterion Collection from the 1970s. That's right, we're back. It's another installment in my Decades series. During the last Criterion sale in July, I did a series of videos where I recommend movies from, how early did I go? The 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Anyway, we're here now, and I'm going to be doing this series again through the month of November. So if you're shopping at Barnes & Noble and you want to pick up some movies 50% off, these are a few of those that I recommend for you. Now, the 70s, I was a little bit nervous to tackle this decade because it just feels like there's so many movies from the 70s in the Criterion Collection. And I actually looked it up and saw that there are, in fact, 256 films as of November 2025 that are in the Criterion Collection. That is so many, I feel like. I should have checked beforehand if it's the decade with the most films. This makes up close to a fifth of the entire collection, and it's just one decade. So yeah, I've only seen a chunk of these movies. There are a wide array of films that I have not checked out. Classic movies that I'm sure you're probably going to feel like I left off this list, and it's probably because A, I haven't seen it, or B, I don't own it. I'm keeping my list to 5 recommendations. There were movies that I absolutely loved that I picked up and own on Criterion and would recommend for you to pick up and buy yourself. So, with all that being said, before I get into my top 5, I wanted to cover a few things that I picked up in July's sale that were from the 70s that I got around to watching or didn't get around to watching. So I had picked up Sorcerer, the William Friedkin film from 1977. This did not make the list. However, it's still kind of ruminating inside my head, and it's the kind of movie that I'll revisit at some point, and maybe in a future installment, it'll make my best of the 70s list, but this is one that's been a hot 4K item, and I gotta say the 4K transfer looks beautiful. However, I did seem to have a few run-ins with the 4K disc kind of crapping out on me a few times on my Blu-ray player. There are issues with 4K discs more often than a Blu-ray disc, but I don't usually run into them. I have a Sony 4K Blu-ray player, and I ended up having to switch to the standard Blu-ray to finish the film because it just kept giving me issues. So if you had that problem, let me know in the comments. I'm kind of curious to know. Okay, a couple other ones. I'm going to speed through these. I picked up a bunch of movies from the 70s in the July haul, hoping that I would get to them before this video and that they would influence my choices here, but I didn't get to all of them. I didn't get to Paper Moon. I've been waiting to watch this one with my wife, so we got to be in the right mood to watch it together. Always a tricky one when that happens. The Three Musketeers and Four Musketeers. I didn't get around to watching this, regrettably, so it's another new one in the collection that, if you're a fan of it, let me know, and maybe you'll be picking it up in the Criterion sale, or you already have. And then these two I did get around to watching, or at least Stalker I've watched half of. It's my first Tarkovsky, first of all, so at some point when I finish it, I want to actually talk about it a little bit more in depth. So it's not really fair for me to give a critique of it yet. I watched the first half, and I've actually been struggling to get to the second half because it is a very slow-paced movie. The shots, I think the average shot length is like 3 minutes. However, it is captivating. You have to be in the perfect mood to watch it, though. And I struggle getting to the right frame of mind for it. But the night that I watched the first half, I was in that frame of mind, and it was very gripping. It has beautiful, smoky, atmospheric layers to its cinematography that are absolutely stunning to look at. It's a very beautiful movie. So I have no complaints with the shot length being on average like 3 or 4 minutes. Every portrait in this feels like poetry, like everything in the frame matters and is carefully put together. So far, I'm digging Stalker, but it didn't make the list because I haven't finished it, nor am I sure if it would make the list because I haven't finished it. And it is a difficult watch. So, okay. And then the last one I got to talk about before getting to my real list is Hal Ashby's Being There from 1979 starring Peter Sellers, because this one was recommended to me throughout the July sale. It's one that I picked up because I kept seeing it in the comments that I needed to watch it. I'm sad to report it just didn't completely work for me. So if that's a deal breaker for you and you hop off the video right now, I totally understand, but I was a little bit underwhelmed by Being There. I really like the premise. It's essentially about a 60-year-old man. He's lived such a comfortable life that he's basically still a child in every way. I mean, he doesn't even know how to read. So when his caretaker passes away, he's kind of out on the streets again and ends up finding himself in the company of luxury and opportunity again, and all the way kind of tripping upward until he is speaking on behalf of the Vice President of the United States of America. I like the general idea that someone who could be kind of considered an idiot can then go and actually sound so smart and be kind of this huge revelation amongst all these politicians. And thematically, a child is smarter than the idiots running the government. That's kind of like its thematic presence. But once you kind of figure out the punchline, it doesn't do much more than that, or at least it didn't for me. I really didn't care for his relationship with Shirley MacLaine's character. I felt like that was really long and drawn out, and I didn't really get invested in it. It's also a very meandering and slow film. You know, I was very engaged in it for the first half, I would say. You kind of get through the first half and you're like, oh shit, I've already watched an hour of this movie, and it doesn't feel like I've watched that many scenes, because it takes its time. It's very slow paced. I don't have a problem with slow pacing, but I just was hoping this would offer a little bit more, and I don't know, it just didn't connect with me in that way. So being there, I know it's often considered one of people's favorites in the collection, and I'm starting off my 70s list knocking on it, but okay, now let's get into some films that actually make my list. We're starting at number 5, and that is going to be Tess, the Roman Polanski film, which stars Natasha Kinski, who is a gem of the 70s and early 80s. So many great films that star her. When it comes to period pieces, I don't know, maybe the 70s does it the best. There's something to the cinemascope of these lenses. Like, this movie is so picturesque. Every frame feels like a portrait. I do feel like this film is a poignant analysis on the differences between sexes and our expectation of women versus men. You know, she's literally just sent off to make her life better for her family and be wed to someone who hopefully can be wealthy, and that can then provide for her family at home. Essentially, the family seemingly caring very little about her, and then her just being underage and stuck, like having to deal with these different lords and lordships and different social classes. Then she falls in love with someone, and that someone, when he finds out she had slept with someone before, it just totally calls the whole thing off and is just like so fucking pissed when he had also done the same. Viewing the different social classes and sexes through the 17th century lens is really fascinating. This film was also dedicated to Roman Polanski's late wife, which was Sharon Tate, who had passed away recently prior to this. Anyway, I guess Roman Polanski, I don't even know why I'm talking about him in a positive way with that. He kind of is the stain on this film because he's a sex criminal, and that fucking sucks. So I don't endorse him as a person, but Tess is still a phenomenal film, and if you can kind of forget about Polanski. God, that does kind of ruin the whole thing. Anyway, that's my number 5, though. I do love this film. I think it's one of Natasha Kinski's best performances. And let yourself be lulled into the English countryside for 3 hours. Let's bring the mood up here a little bit. We need something exciting, something fun. My number 4 on this list is in the Bruce Lee box set. All of these films are from the 70s, so you could get the whole box set. Also, you can't get this film in Criterion outside of the box set. However, you can get it on 4K through the WB 4Ks I was talking about in my last noir video that are stunning. So the movie I'm talking about here is Enter the Dragon. 1973's Enter the Dragon is one of the greatest martial arts films ever made. It's kind of Bruce Lee's first foray into American films, and so it's a blend of American and Chinese production, and is kind of like a Mortal Kombat-esque. Well, it inspired Mortal Kombat with this tournament where they bring a bunch of people together, all out to this island, and it's a tournament to the death. I don't know, it's such a fun premise, and there's so much great martial arts in it. It's also the best looking Bruce Lee film. I think that it's the most polished in that way, and it's really just a shame that we never got to go further than The Way of the Dragon and see more Bruce Lee, because he only made 4 complete films and then shot the kind of finale segments of Game of Death, and that's included here as the 5th film. But really, the man made 4 1/4 films, and it's all in this box set. I also love the other films in here, by the way, but Enter the Dragon is probably the most grand, the most epic. I love the island setting that they're on. The martial arts is fantastic. You also get other fun side characters. Box set is beautiful. I know it's just the Blu-ray edition, but I think these transfers hold up and they look stunning, so But if you want the 4K edition of Enter the Dragon, that exists, just not on Criterion. Okay, next on this list at number 3 is a stunning 4K edition of McCabe and Mrs. Miller, a Pacific Northwest Western film. So it's not your typical, like, kicking up dust kind of Western. It's a snowy, cold, wet Western. It is the perfect film to watch as we transition into winter, making it a great pickup for your November Barnes & Noble sale. It stars Warren Beatty and Julie Christie, who run a saloon and whorehouse in a small town. Basically, they're entrepreneurs. Warren Beatty is kind of building this town and building his own business, but representatives of a powerful mining company that operate in nearby towns and have a capital on the market don't love that he's doing his own thing, and so they become this threat that is trying to tear down the town in which Warren Beatty is building up from the ground. It's a very raw 70s film. It's got these scenes where the dialogue is sometimes hard to make out because it feels like there was one boom mic in this huge room of a bunch of people, and that can be sometimes a little bit like difficult or challenging to understand everything. I mean, throw the subtitles on and that will help, but it can get in the way of the audio experience a little bit. But at the same time, it kind of just gives more to the feeling of just this dirty, grimy, uncomfortable Western that this movie is. And so, in a way, I think it definitely adds to the picture. There's also some really great special features on here, including an interview with critic Pauline Kael, whom stood up for this film when people were criticizing it and didn't like it, and the movie bombed due to word of mouth and critics in specific. Back in 1971, I mean, a critic posting in a newspaper was enough to make or break a film, and there were just a handful of critics kind of dictating what good film was. And so there's a fascinating interview kind of discussing that time frame and the film critic who stood up for this film. However, a little too late because this was a major flop. But McCabe and Mrs. Miller is worth your time. It's a fantastic Robert Altman film and very vibey. I love it. Another period piece. And we're not stopping when it comes to period pieces, because number 2 on this list is Barry Lyndon, which I've talked about multiple times on this channel. Another every frame is a painting kind of movie. And you know Stanley Kubrick, someone who is a master of craft when it comes to cinematography. He sits and he does 200 takes of something because he notices every detail in the frame and wants it to be perfect. It probably was hell for the actors, hell for people working on the movie, but absolutely beautiful artwork that he has given us to look at. It feels like you're walking through a museum looking at different paintings on the wall. Also, this movie was shot with all natural lighting, including indoor sequences that they used candlelight to illuminate the entire sequence if it was at nighttime. It's really a stunning movie from its photography, but I do think that the actual story itself, it's got this just really fun, lighthearted kind of charm to it. Barry Lyndon is almost like a Catch Me If You Can type of character, where he's a very calculated trickster slash almost Catch Me If You Can character, but he also comes across way more hapless and like he kind of stumbles his way into random fortunes and luck. But he is essentially trotting around the 18th century English countryside in different battle encampments and kind of finding himself in a way of success. And so it's a rags to riches kind of story. He's stumbling in and out of it. I don't know. It does have like layers of depth and sadness and melodrama to it as well, but I think it's a really fun time. It's a unique film. Movies just don't feel like this, obviously, because Stanley Kubrick isn't making films anymore as he's passed on. But just in general, you know, I talked about Tess earlier. It has a certain type of energy and feel and this kind of just absorb yourself in the environment type of pace. This Tess and McCabe and Mrs. Miller are all kind of cut from the same cloth in that way. Yeah, I think I'm determining 70s is like the era for period pieces. But, okay, Barry Lyndon. And before I give my final pick, I'm going to do 2 quick honorable mentions for my collection, starting with The American Friend. This is one of Wim Wenders' early feature-length films from 1977. It stars the classic Wim Wenders actor Bruno Ganz and Dennis Hopper, who plays an art curator, and Bruno Ganz ends up getting mixed up into some trouble and some crime with him. But this movie is absolutely beautiful and stunning to look at. When it comes to Wim Wenders' work, his work is so diverse, And some of his more modern pictures are very they don't have quite as fast pace of a narrative. This is a little faster in its narrative. It's also a little bit maybe more cynical from a Wim Wenders film. It's got a darkness to it. It's got a seedy criminal underworld type of feel, and has a little bit of action. It's something that when you're watching it, it feels like a Wim Wenders film because of its cinematography and its deep care for its characters, but it stands out in his filmography feeling different than any of his others. Anyway, I recommend The American Friend. It's a great Wim Wenders film, and yeah. Last one, Albert Brooks, Real Life from 1979. I gotta get a comedy on here. This movie made me crack up. I've talked about it on the channel a few times, but it's essentially reality television in its earliest form, and Albert Brooks' character is trying to invent reality television as he's trying to film the real life of a family with non-invasive tools like these cameras that the crew wear on their heads, these big camera suits that just make them look like spacemen. It's so ridiculous. The family starts breaking out in arguments, and you have these camera guys in these big giant suits just walking around looking like dorks as they're filming them. It's a funny movie. I definitely recommend it. Also on 4K. Okay. Whew! Had a lot to say there for the 70s. We made it to our number one on the list, which is going to be a filmmaker that you're familiar with because I think he's made the top of my 50s and 60s lists as well. Oh, I failed to mention Armored from Federico Fellini. That was my other honorable mention, but it's in my box set and I didn't want to pull it out. But that movie it's a movie that I watched, didn't know how I felt about it, and every time I've thought about it since, I've grown more and more love for it. Beautiful, picturesque movie as well, telling of Federico Fellini's kind of childhood stories and memoirs combined into this weird metaphysical almost type of experience. Beautiful cinematography, Italian countryside. What else is new? We got sweeping, beautiful shots in so many of our 70s pictures. But for our final film, this one is probably the most claustrophobic as far as its setting. It takes place in one house, a few exterior shots, one location for the most part, and that's going to be from our Ingmar Bergman box set. Can you guess what it is? Autumn Sonata. Autumn Sonata came out in 1978 and stars Ingrid Bergman, not to be confused with Ingmar Bergman, but no, the classic actress from the 40s, 50s, Casablanca's Ingrid Bergman. And then a frequent collaborator of Ingmar Bergman's, and that was Liv Ullmann, who's from Persona and many other films if you watch Ingmar Bergman's filmography. But Liv Ullmann plays a character whom it's evident right from the beginning of this film that she's layered with insecurities, is very fragile and sensitive even in her own relationship with her very kind and loving husband. However, she struggles with actually accepting love from her husband, which is told through this really tragic and honestly crippling moment at the very beginning of the film where the husband is giving us this narration talking about his wife and how she struggles with loving herself, with her own identity, with knowing who she is. And he says if only she could know how wholeheartedly she is loved, but there is no words I can say in which she will recognize that. It's a very tragic sentiment and tough thing to see because this character is so broken. It's clear that all of Liv Ullmann's insecurities and traumas stem from her unresolved issues with her mother, played by Ingrid Bergman, who comes roaring into the house for her first visit in I think 7 years is what I remember it saying. And she is essentially just a full-blown narcissist, talking about her own achievements, acting like she has this great relationship with her daughters, when in fact she just does not, and doesn't recognize the actual trauma and hell she's put her kids through. So this movie is, God, it ends up becoming like this 45-minute centerpiece of emotional trauma as they hash this stuff out with each other. It can be a really heavy film because the movie gets into some really deep stuff, but the performances by Ingrid Bergman and Liv Ullmann, to me, they're the kind that should be studied in film acting class. From the beginning to the end, there is so much texture and detail, and it helps that they're given a very nuanced and deeply layered script from Ingmar Bergman. It's a powerful film. It's the kind of movie that will probably stir up some unsettling traumas within yourself and then inspire you to want to take action on resolving those. But a little spoiler alert for this film, the tragedy, the kind of cynical viewpoint in which this movie ends, Liv Ullmann has an opportunity to overcome these with her mother, and you kind of feel like they're having these breakthroughs. And then her mother just leaves first thing in the morning, doesn't say goodbye, jets off on a train because it was too difficult. It was all too difficult to face her. And now Liv Ullmann is like, I pushed my mom away. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean anything, because she just wants the love and affection of her mom, regardless of everything that she has felt. And there's so much tragedy to this film. It touches on generational trauma, but either way, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful character piece with some of the best performances I've ever seen. I love it. I was blown away by it. Oh, and it's the first Ingmar Bergman film that I've actually watched that's in color. I know there are plenty, but that's the first one I've gotten to in the 70s in my box set. For this movie being indoors for the most part, the set design and colors, they're all these kind of browns, mustard yellows, dark reds, forest greens. Everything is so beautifully composed that it genuinely feels like autumn colors and fall colors throughout the house. It makes you feel like you're watching a movie that takes place in the fall. So for being called Autumn Sonata, it delivers on feeling like autumn. Okay, I've rambled on way too long about these movies. Let me know what your guys' favorites from the 70s are below and what I should pick up this November sale. Keep an eye on the channel because I'm going to be doing the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, probably all of them. It feels more daunting as I get more and more modern for whatever reason, but hey, we're just picking some movies I love from those decades. I'm not going to overthink it, but there's so many I haven't seen. Thank you for watching the video. I love you. We'll catch you in the next one.